respects to country, this beautiful country, acknowledge the elders past, present and future. I suppose I want to tell a story a little bit about how we've come to where we are, and Kelvin's run through a little bit of the picture of the development, so I want to sort of share a little story about that. Just brief background, I suppose our interests, our expertise is in residential work, both individual housing, group housing, eco-villages and so forth, but also a lot of residential work, a lot of educational work, schools, shearwater, all over Australia. The very basis of our work is that we take our departure point from the land form, from its contours, from the rocks, the trees, and that provides, if you like, the inspiration for where the buildings come from, their forms, the development, the way they are placed, and especially with a project like this, which I'm just so delighted to be involved with, especially projects like this where we have a number of buildings, schools also, it's the spaces between the buildings that are so important, and it's the spaces between the buildings that we can develop a particular relationship to the land. So Jimmy mentioned our work with Shearwater School. For 25 years ago, I began working with the community there on this school. We prepared a master plan that, as the school has developed, that master plan has evolved, and over the years, the buildings have emerged and adapted, and now, some 25 years later, we're now finishing, probably where we should have started, we're finishing the Early Childhood Centre, which is an interesting sort of process, I suppose. In some schools you start with the kindergarten, preschool, class 1, 2, 3, 4 and so forth. For various reasons this didn't happen. So that's sort of part of my journey. So Brunswick Eco Village, why would you want to live here? Look at it on the left. Here, we're here, Mullins here, Brunswick, Ocean Shores, Byron Bay. I mean, what a fantastic location to end up living. You can cycle to most of those places. You're in close proximity to all these areas, but you're not right in the thick of it. So you're almost in your own little world, but close to everything. So it's a brilliant location to be in. But apart from that, there are some other qualities about the land here. And even before I met Kelvin and he spoke to me about this exciting project, I'd researched this area because Marilyn, my partner, and I were looking to live here, and we were looking for land. And in that time, we discovered the McGettigan's Lane Saddle Road spur, which is this wonderful landform that runs northeast from Myocombe Road through, and it's got the most beautiful landform just rising up out of the floodplains, and it's full of saddles, Saddle Road. And I'm sure you all know how good it is to sit in a saddle, how firm and secure it is, but how much freedom you've got. So the saddle form in the landscape is one of the most beautiful places you can be in. So when Kelvin rang me one day and talked about his project and said, I've just bought a farm in Saddle Road, I thought, this is fantastic. And he sketched out his vision to me, which you've heard so much about already. And I met Kelvin on the land, and we spent, I don't know, half a day walking over all the aspects of it and learning about it. And he said, look, I've just renovated this farmhouse, my family's here, I've got 2 beautiful daughters, we're really settling in, we've got the garden going, but I'd like to see what else we can do on the land. Have a community here, have some farming, have some food production, have some education facilities. So how can we develop the other part of the land? So we talked about that, and we talked about the saddle and the power of the saddle formation and what it does. So I said, look, I'd be really delighted to be involved with this, but can we add one component to the brief? Can we add just one element as well as the others we talked about? And that is that this saddle formation with the fig tree is also part of the exercise. So Kelvin took a bit of a gulp and said, I've got to talk to my wife, Skye, and kids and see what they think about that. And they came back and said, yes, we'd like to look at that as an option, as a concept, because we can see what you're talking about. And that's really the little story of how this process happened. And for me, that was a great sort of indicator of the people that were involved, how open they were to looking at all sorts of options and ideas that probably in the normal circumstances you just rule them out. And that's sort of the people who've heard talk so far and others involved have been drawn to that. So looking at the land in more detail, one of the people that was drawn to it is John Sparks, I think, who's over here, local architect, who's added to our understanding and knowledge of the site and the analysis of it, and prepared a geomantic survey, which on the left, it's a bit hard to see, but a lot of those lines show the energy lines that crisscross the site. We've established where the energy vortices are, and so there's a lot of drawing in of information about the site, which is developing our picture of where things should be placed so that they fit in with a natural landscape. We understand there are a number of cultural sites, Aboriginal sites, which we are learning more and more about and trying to find more information so we can also respectfully work with those qualities on the site. On the right, the two diagrams there are synonymous, if you like. On the right is the aerial view of the same map. And you can see that Saddle Road, Gulligan Road divide the site into three distinct parcels: northern, southern, if it's southern or central, and a lower parcel. You can see that it's an old farm. It's all been cleared. The remnant rainforest areas largely hug the deep contours or the steep contours of the site. And the saddle that we've spoken about is right here. Right here. The highest point, in fact, is just off the site, and it comes down to the fig tree. Kelvin's house is there. And so from here, we look north, northeast, magnificent views of the ocean, beautiful solar access. And this is an area that we'll talk about in more detail. On the south side of Saddle Road, larger, flatter areas, before we come to a very steep escarpment that wraps around here, which is more heavily forested, and some very interesting and intricate waterways that come through the site. We've got a spring that's located here. You can just see the elements of the water merging here as they wrap down the site, and to become a very flat area here that Kelvin has spoken about, here with Gulligan Lane or road cutting through it. Next slide, please. Just looking quickly at the southern site, the saddle we've spoken about being here. This panoramic photo is taken from this very high point here. To the left you see the saddle dropping away to the distant ocean views, and to the right down here to the southern parts of the site. Here you see just images around the saddle. The tree image that you saw before, that's a magnificent picture of it there, and the clearing and the saddle formations here. So this is where we are going to develop the very heart of the community. It's a magnificent area. Now, interestingly enough, with this area, part of the site, there's almost a polar opposite to the saddle and the tree, and it's down here. This is the most beautiful, protected amphitheatre. A little bit smaller, but it's flat, it's surrounded by trees, and it's an area that is just ideal for communities to gather and meet as well. So you have a sort of a focal point at the high point and the potential for this gathering down here with this large cleared sloping area looking to the northeast. On the south, essentially large flat areas here which you can see the landforms in the panorama looking in different parts of it. Very extensive wetland emerging here before it drops off to this lower area. So apologies, there aren't so many photos of these areas here, but you can get a picture of it from that point of view. So that brings us to why have we placed these land uses here? And essentially the land uses and the colours and the zones, the precincts that Kelvin spoke about it, are simply allocating land for a particular use. We haven't got to the point where individual and particular designs have been worked up, although preliminary explorations have occurred so that we can see that it can work. So as mentioned, the heart of the community here, potential here for the community to have its outdoor area for common gardens, community gardens, gatherings and so forth to celebrate the seasons. And then these residential zones, which you can just faintly pick out the precincts here. These ones obviously northeasterly aspect with many with ocean views. Then we come to the south side. The school, the educational use requires significant flat land. And more and more so, flat land is important for educational purposes. We have to provide accessibility to all facilities there now. So essentially, that is a perfect site for the school. The wellness area that's connected to the school, just here, can be connected to these waterways, which we want to enhance. As Shane mentioned, we want to enhance the existing waterways, we want to enhance all the natural vegetation. So you can see the darker green is all been hatched out and strengthened and enlarged so that the residential precincts tuck in around there. So there'll be more residents here, and then higher down here also, more facing east, some beautiful areas for the residential area. Then we come down to this area, it's low lying. There are small portions of it which are flood prone, which we've set aside, but essentially this is ideal for the work-life relationship that Kelvin spoke about. You can just see here indicated we are looking at the possibility of reorganising Saddle Road so we can better service the residential areas, but also we want to, if you like, take the road and the traffic pressures off Saddle Road as a totality and say that we are essentially self-contained. We're not going to significantly increase the traffic load on Saddle Road. We've just had very preliminary look at how will clusters work there, because the landform is different, it's got different orientations, different contours. Where will the cars stop? Where will the road be? Will this be pedestrianised? Will it allow emergency vehicles in? Will you be able to drive to your garage? These are all things that this program, development program, that you're about to embark on will explore. But we have looked at it in terms of some will be more circular, some will be more linear depending on the contours. The relationship of a built form to the solar aspect is being looked at. Where will the common house be? Here, or here, or here? And how will we control the privacy from the individual through to the public street and the shared with vehicles and cars and people? So that just gives you an idea of where that is at, but it's not a design, it is just exploring those options so the land we know is suitable. And finally, we've just looked briefly at the educational side. How can a community school work there? How can it fit on the land? How can we generate and bring the community buildings together? Can we introduce the water element and so forth, so that we know that when this becomes developed, that it will work beautifully on that site. So I hope that just gives you a picture of where we are, where we're up to, and what the issues are that you'll all be now involved with in the future. And after, I think John's speaking next about education, and then after sessions there'll be tables which I'll be sitting over there and can answer particular questions on the design aspect. Thank you.